Greetings and salutations once again, and we're back with how much does Deckard Cain actually cost? If you remember last time, we left off that he cost us so far 2,160 gold. And we haven't even saved him yet. We didn't even make it out to the Stony Field yet, and he still cost us over 2,100 gold. So effectively, I'm basically thinking I'm gonna go... I mean, I know that gold's not that big of a deal in Diablo, but still... It feels like I'm just going to end up going deep into debt because of it. It's going to be, well, you know, he's costing a ton of money. Now, I kind of wanted to talk, because I didn't get a chance to do it during the Hearthstone video. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the Pokemon Champions that came out. I've enjoyed it. I'm already up to, like, almost Great Ball rank, I think. I think Great Ball rank is what comes after. But anyway... I do like the way that they're doing things. And I think I know why they're kind of slow-walking the release of Pokemon and items. If you know anything about the Pokemon metagame, you'll know that if you have knowledge, you can definitely use it to gain a very competitive edge. And by very competitive edge, I mean, like, extremely competitive. For example, I was playing earlier today, and I ran into a couple of people that I used Trick Room, and upon using Trick Room, my opponent was like, "Ah, yes, I'm going to use Scary Face," and I'm like, "But wait, you just made me faster by making me slower." And it's like, that's what I mean by I don't think everybody quite understands it yet. You know? And so, there's that learning curve that there's a lot of players that are brand new to it need to kind of understand and figure out. Whereas the, you know, seasoned veteran players who have played, you know, a lot of the Pokemon before will understand, hey... You know, I know what I'm doing. I know the strategies behind it. I know kind of what I'm aiming for in my team. And they'll know how to make a comprehensive team. And so I think that's why Game Freak is kind of like slow walking the release of more Pokemon and more items, so that it's not as overwhelming to people, because like if you just jam out a whole bunch of items out there, if you jam out a whole bunch of items and you jam out a whole bunch of like stuff that people can look at and, you know, purchase with the V-Buck, you know, they're not V-Bucks, but they're called like V points or something like that. You earn quite a few of them rather quickly. Like with the first few quests, you're well over 24,000. I was able to get like cosmetic upgrades and stuff for the character, and you know, retrain some certain amount, you know, some of my Pokemon, give them new abilities and whatnot, give them new attacks, and their not their individual values. Sorry, their effort values are no longer 252 per point in Champions. It's now 32. And you can have a maximum of 66. And I kind of like that. Because it's a more... I mean, your stat differential is still the same. You're still getting as many points as you would with 252 effort values. It's just a smaller scale. And it makes it easier to fine-tune things. If you want it like, oh, I only want to add this much. It makes it much easier to fine-tune. It's a wonderful iteration so far. I've found quite literally nothing wrong with it right yet. Like, for example, one of the things that they put out there in like the battle pass, it's a seasonal pass, for example, and a lot of games are going that route. So I don't have a problem with like seasonal passes. One of the seasonal pass things they've put out is Emborite, where you can literally Mega Evolve your Embor. Now, most people would say, well, right there, it's pay to win. But what I don't understand is, like, quite literally right next to it is... Wait, I used another one. So, plus 80. 2240. That's what we're up to. Like, right in another section of the game is the same Emborite, but for V points that you could just purchase. Or, no, it's a quest reward. That's it. It's a quest reward. So, it gives you one on your reward track for your whatever, and then it gives you another. So what's the difference? Why even have the one in the specific reward track if you were just going to give away another one for a quest reward? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, the whole rental idea is cool too, because you can rent a Pokemon from the ranch for free for 7 days. So it's like you want to try out a Pokemon that it just appears in your ranch. You can sit there and go, well, let me just scout this Pokemon for free and see if it works well. And if it works well, you can always go and get it permanently using one of two methods. I just hit a potion too. So let's see, that was another. And we're gonna do, oops, did not want that. I wanted that. One, and another 2. So we go plus 160. Up to 2400. That's not quite 2 tomes yet. We're not quite to 2 tomes, but we're getting there. Tomes is 40 times 80. We're not quite there yet. We're getting there though. I'm trying to think what's my. I can't brain right now because it's what, 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. Yes. Another one of those days where I got to recording late, so it's. The tired is kind of seeping into the brain. But nevertheless, you can rent the Pokemon you want and then kind of send them back if it's like, okay, well, that one didn't work out. Or you can rent them permanently if they did work out. So there's that type of flexibility to it, and I kind of like that. Like, from a standpoint of somebody who's always wanted to try an idea with a team, but I never really had the layout of the team, or I was missing that one piece. And if that one piece is in the ranch at that time, you can get it. Now, the ones in the ranch already come pre-trained. So, you can just kind of adjust them as you see fit. And it's got its moments where adjusting it feels like, yeah, you're going to spend a lot of money fine-tuning. I say money, but it's the in-game currency. You're going to spend a lot of that in-game currency retuning, which is fine. But it's also at the same time that you're not going to need, 200, box spaces to house all of the breed rejects because you didn't get the right IV spread or the right nature or the right ability. You could just change it on a whim just for some in-game currency, some earned currency. So it's kind of a cool idea, and I do like that about it. I think it's a very smart move, because now it prevents two things. Of course, I'm gonna be met with, obviously, probably vocal pushback from the Pokemon community for saying this, but it prevents people from doing gimmicks. Now, before I go too far off into the weeds on what the gimmick is, let me explain. A while ago, you had Ursaluna, but I think it was Blood Moon Ursaluna, and it had to have a specific speed individual value. And then it had to be trained specifically in speed for a certain level of effort values to get the absolute perfect Ursaluna. This is about 2 years ago at this point in time. Well, a little less than 2 years ago. It was a couple of World's Championships ago. Somebody found the perfect Ursaluna in their game and then proceeded to clone it multiple times. And then other people were caught generating the Pokemon. Let's plus 80 again. And the people that were caught generating the Pokemon they had those Pokemon removed from their team by Nintendo at Worlds. Which this angered a whole bunch of people, of course. Angered players that lost to them. Angered players that had the generated Pokemon that didn't know they were generated. Because you gotta think, let's say you have a legitimate something, and you trade it to somebody for a generated Pokemon, and now you've been hosed out of that legitimate Pokemon you had. Kind of like my legitimate North American Arceus that isn't legitimate North American Arceus from the very first Diamond. I've explained that story a couple times. Anyway. It's kind of like that. But at the same time... Oh, there's another 80. But at the same time, it's like, imagine the people that got the generated Pokemon and now they feel shorted and slighted because, well, the guy lied to them. Basically took something from them, right? And gave them nothing of value. I mean, as a player, you'd be livid. I'd be livid, right? Or if you're at the tournament and you lost to it and you're like, wait a minute, that thing was generated? Of course I lost to it. So to prevent this, they've basically said everybody's individual values, when you get them, are 31 in Champions. When you import them, they're all 31 individual values across the board. Yes, this is going to downplay things like Gyro Ball. Yes, this is going to downplay things like I think it's Electro Ball. Makes it, the attack is faster. If the speed gap is faster, you do more damage. It's going to remove a lot of strategies like that, but it's going to leave other strategies in the game. And it's going to also minimize the impact of having the perfect IV. And it's going to minimize generating Pokemon because, well, now you don't need those specific IVs. You don't need the 0 IV whatever. You know, you don't need the 0 HP IV, or you don't need the 0, that's going to be another 80, that's going to be another 80. You don't need the 0 speed IV to maximize your Gyro Ball damage. So, I can see the potential as to why they did what they did. And this is where, I mean, I have a friend of mine that I got into competitive battling. He is going to probably tell me how far off I am. And that people should just use Pokemon Showdown. And it's like, no, you don't want to use Pokemon Showdown. And if I should probably use a calculator over here and figure out exactly... Oh, pardon me. Figure out exactly what they did, because they used to have 510. And now you only can max with 32 into a stat. So it's like, did they reduce the stats by 1/8? I don't know. I haven't done the math to figure it out. Normally I could do the math in my head, but again, I'm tired, you know. I'm pretty well beat. But it's been a busy day. But nevertheless, we go back to what we were talking about here. Oh, that's another plus 80. And then I need, what, 2 more? So that's 1, 2. Yeah, 2 more. That's another plus 160. I'm up to 2,700, and I still haven't even rescued Cain yet. $30 attack rating? Yeah, put it on over that, sure. I'll just sell that other staff, doesn't matter. Actually, wait just a second. I am going to look that up. Not look it up, but I'm going to calculate it out here, because I've got a calculator open there to keep my rolling tally going. So let's see. If we take 252 and divide by 32, it's 7.8. So if we divide by 33, it's 7.6. So it's 510 divided by 66, 7.7 per stat. So each point you put into your Pokemon on Pokemon Champions gives you 7.7 points, like effort values per point you put in. Yeah, people are not going to like that, but I prefer the simplified. 66 points spread across. Not because it's easier to do, but if you were to go back to the whole 510 points and put it into Pokemon Champions, imagine having to sit there and do it divisible by 4 every time. So every single time you wanted to, you know, change up your stats on your Pokemon, you had to, you know, do this divide by 4 to figure out exactly how many points you were getting, etc., so on and so forth. It's just easier to have it be the simplified method. And it still plays the same. I mean, the graphics look really good for what it is. I mean, really good. And it runs 60 frames a second on the Switch, of course. It should. It should be able to run on a potato. I mean, if it can run on phones... If it can run on phones, it can run on a Switch. And it can run on phones. It's like that old statement, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Same thing. So if it can run on a Switch, it can run on a phone. Or other way around. But they don't have terrestrialization in the game yet. They just have Mega Evolutions in the game. They don't have the Z moves in yet. I do believe those are going to be coming at a later time, because this is going to be a point where you could have all things. But I think they're still trying to figure that out, too. How many should you allow? You know, how many gimmicks? I can't call them anything but generational gimmicks. How many generational gimmicks do you allow per match? Do you cap it at 1? We're at 2,800.
I'll put that to good use.
Because let's say you limit it to just 1 generational gimmick, which means you can only have 1 Terrasilize, 1 Mega Evolution, 1 Z move, but not 1 of each, just 1. Yeah, that would make it so that your strategic choices are a little bit wider, and you sit there and think, okay, well, do I want to go for the aggressive play, or do I want to go for the counter play? And of course, that's completely dependent upon, effectively, other things. Like, if you went Dynamax, for example, that's the aggressive play. You're trying to snowball the game behind you and win with that Dynamax play. Whereas Terrestrialization is more of a counter. It's more of a counterplay strategy. It's more of a counterplay build. Because Terrestrialization effectively can make the opponent have to take a step back from that aggressive standpoint. Now, it's not necessarily going to work all the time, but it allows you to... Well, that's another plus 160. 2960. Jeez. Wow, that's going to sell well. That's not a bad one either. Don't really need the attack rating. Take, for example, Dusclops with Terrestrialization, right? He's normally a ghost type, but if you Terrestrialize into a normal type, you can now curse on the first turn, reducing your speed, increasing your defense and your attack, and it makes your opponent, who may have been prepping a dark type move or may have been prepping a ghost type move to be super effective, it now makes him have to take a step back and go, okay, wait a minute. Now I have to think, I have to hit him with a fighting type maneuver to be super effective. Man, I'm tired. And Mega Evolutions are much in the same way. Because you can Mega Evolve, and it completely changes the scope of the game. Some Mega Evolutions are offensive. They are snowbally in nature, kind of like Kangaskhan. But many are just kind of that reaction. You Mega Evolve to try and put the opponent on the back foot. Like, for example, Mega Excadrill. Mega Excadrill is not what I would call an offensive Mega Evolution. Reason being, yes, it's more effective on an offensive from an offensive standpoint. But I don't think it's a more offensive build. Solely because one of his ability becomes something that allows him to pierce protect, which is something that has been needed for a long time. So now you're talking a counterplay, because for the longest time you had only one move that could work against protect, and that was Feint. And the reason why that was so big was because Feint was awful. It was allowed. It was allowed to be used when the opponent was going to protect, and then it goes around the protect and actually hits the opponent, but does next to nothing, right? And that's why it was awful. Is because you really couldn't accurately predict when they were going to protect. You could kind of guess it, but nobody would put that in their move pool or in the move slot, because you're just better off doing other things. Like, think about it. If the opponent is going to use protect, wouldn't you rather use, let's say, Wish, Soft Boiled, Moonlight, Substitute, Swords Dance, nasty plot, any sort of stat increasing maneuver, or any sort of setup maneuver, stealth rock, so on and so forth. They're going to protect, so why not just put up a hazard, or why not just use haze and remove all stat bonuses? Something like that. And that's what I meant by people were often wanting to just play something better, do something better. Where Excadrill now just says, oh, you've used Protect, but all of my attacks carry on through Protect at 1/4 damage. That is massive. I heard a jewel, that's more money. More money flushed down the drain. Plus 80. 3,040 gold. I mean, I know that I've made 5,000 on a single staff, but it's just insane that that's it. This is how much Deckard Cain costs effectively, and this is just on items that I want to identify or that I believe might be worth something. Like the jewels you can turn around and make something with. Though I am interested in talking to my friend about the changes that they've made to certain things, like Mega Excadrill. Now, I don't know if he's known about Mega Excadrill, but well, there's another 80. Plus 80. 3120.
I'll put that to good use. I'll put that to good use.
Yeah. That Wraith Dart was terrible. Oh well. Where on earth was the pathway down? There's no way I've missed it. Not a chance. Now on to other things. There's a skill that some people have where they can read the room and kind of like read the air, tell how people are going to act, react, that sort of thing. Which, a little bit of a philosophical side note here. When somebody says something and you react, right? Not respond, react. Key difference. Responding is just looking at them and saying, okay, like, effectively, if somebody says something and you turn to them and you say something in a very calm manner about, like, that you have that they have your attention, etc., that you're just kind of paying attention to what they're saying, that is a response. You are responding to their, sort of query, and just all around, you're responding to the actual person's statement, right? A reaction is when emotions take over and dictate how you respond. Now, The problem now is that people need... Oops. People need to get away from being reactive, and they need to be responsive. Now, you're probably wondering, why does that matter? Here's why it matters. It's a bit of an anecdotal story, so just bear with me. One of my friends and their child was being very just disruptive. But of course, it's a young child, so most children are going to just be talkative, you know. And she kept going, you know, like, Dad, and she wanted him to look over and talk to her, and he was responding to her. He's just like, oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, he was just very interactive, like he was responding. He wasn't reacting. He was responding in such a way and letting her know that, hey, I'm paying attention. I really, you know, he was really focused, being a great dad. I was like, you know what, more power to him. That was the perfect thing. Then on that juxtaposition, there were times when his other daughter was a little bit snippy or a little bit edgy, and he responded with emotion, and he was reacting to how she was acting. Now, when you react, it's not about your voice, it's about the listener. Reaction is about listener. Responding is about orator. That's the key difference. Because when you react, you have more of an effect on the listener than you do as a speaker. And when you respond, you have more effect as a speaker than you do as a listener. Right? And the only difference between the two, quite literally, is attitude. A reaction is generally driven by attitude. A response is driven just by, well, just by speaking. I think people need to realize that instead of responding or instead of reacting, you should respond. And I think that a lot of things that go on today are because people have blurred that line of respond versus react.
Good day.
And they'll jump to a conclusion. And when you jump to that conclusion, it's never a good sign. Because jumping to a conclusion will most often lead to somebody being hurt. Not necessarily physically hurt, but just emotionally hurt. And when people are emotionally hurt because of a reaction, they lash out. And when they lash out, it creates this cycle of, oh, that person reacted to me, so I'm going to react to them, and then they reacted back, and then it's just back and forth. You don't want that. That's not good. Oops, not what I wanted. I'm trying to think of the other thing that I was talking about. Ah, yes, that's what it was. I had a friend. I have a friend. I can't say I had. I still have the friend. I have a friend, and they were talking to one of their coworkers. And her coworker was like 38 something, like 38 years old. I'm a little bit older, but anyway, she was talking to her coworker, and she told her coworker, because her and her coworker were talking about random things, and then her coworker mentioned hobbies that she was into. And immediately my friend said, "Oh, I know a guy that's into the same hobbies." And before she could get that entire statement out of her mouth about, "I know a guy who's into those same hobbies," her coworker said, "I'm not looking to date anybody right now." Now, this is the whole read the room thing. What does that say to anybody? Right? You know what it says to me? This is exactly what it says to me. It says to me that this person was hurt emotionally by somebody. And because she was hurt emotionally, she's now retracted and she's kind of regressed away from things. She doesn't want that social interaction because she's afraid just even cordial social interaction will lead to being hurt again down the road in a relationship. And so my friend said, "Well, yeah, I figured no." She's like, no, not as a relationship. She's like, just as a friend. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is the bonehead move. Because what you've done there is you've now basically said to this person, "I want you to meet this person, this other person I know, because you have similar interests." That's going to make your friend, your coworker, feel diminished. Like, I can't meet people myself. I can't make my own friends. It runs into that psychological thing. So now, my friend asked me, could I give my contact info to her? I said, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care. I said, I told my friend I would talk to a brick wall if it sat still long enough, so sure, I don't care, go for it. While that was going on, in the back of my mind, I thought, I'm not going to hear from this individual. Just because of the way she responded. It was a knee-jerk response of, I'm not looking for somebody right now, which tells me I'm not trying to be sociable right now. That knee-jerk response immediately told me more than any words could have ever told me. And what do you know? I was right. It's been about 6 days since my information was handed to her coworker. Haven't heard a lick of anything. Not a word. And people would say, well, maybe they're busy. Not for an entire calendar week, my friend. Not unless they were out busy trying to learn how to juggle flaming chainsaws from a ninja clown that they had to hunt down. Right? Unless they're supremely busy trying to hunt people down to learn how to do a very niche skill, there's no way they're that busy. Especially considering the whole knee-jerk statement of, I'm not interested in talking to, I'm not interested in a relationship. Why would you default to that? What she should have said, what my friend should have said is, I have a friend that's into the same stuff. At which point, that would cause her to say, oh, really? Well, who are they? Now you've got your foot in the door. But by leading in and saying, oh, I know this guy. Well, right there, she's not interested. The conversation shut down. Because the human mind immediately goes to matchmaker, right? And it shouldn't. Because sometimes there's just cordial interactions that some people wish to engage in cordially speaking to one another about similar hobbies. But for some reason, society has gone so much down the rabbit hole, down the spiral of degradation and degeneracy that they all think it's about something else, when it couldn't be further from the truth. I'd have spoken to him about the hobbies, because it was all tabletop games and, you know, like Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't play Dungeons and Dragons either, but I know of it. I can't really speak at depth on it, but I know of it. So, when I told my friend, it's like, you know, I knew that this was just going to end up in the round file. I just knew it. I don't think my friend was too awful happy with me saying that, because it made them think like, well, then why did I go to such lengths to do it? Okay, well, first off, you didn't have to. You wanted to. Big difference. Big difference. Big difference. Taking that initiative and wanting to do it is way different than just doing it because, you know, because I asked you to. Well, I didn't. But it still went along the whole action-reaction thing, right? Because her friend didn't merely respond, her friend reacted. Because it was an immediate, like, visceral no. Interesting how that works. And people would say, well, did this person know you? It doesn't matter if they knew me or not. Wouldn't matter if they met me or not. Because it's not going to change your opinion. If you think about it, right? An opinion is formed and a judgment is formed long before they actually get to know you. Just by looking at you from across the room, they're going to form an opinion and have some form of judgment versus you. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, they are going to just do it whether you like it or not. Now, if you try to break that mold and you try to be something you're not, or try to break out of the box they put you in their own mind, they're going to think you're trying too hard. And then they're just going to basically lambaste you over it anyway. It's just the rotten rule of the kid's kingdom, unfortunately. It's that way from when you're 2 years old, or not 2 years old, but like when you're 5 years old to when you're 55 years old or older. People are just going to have a preconceived notion of you whether you like it or not, and you are never going to be able to shift that. It's unfortunate. 100% unfortunate. We're not even going to grab the Scroll of Oedipus. So we're not saving Deckard Cain. But that's just the way it is. That's how life is. And many people do that. Not all. I can't say all people do it, but many people do. For many people, it's just a second way of, you know, it's just how they are. They breathe, they wake up, they eat, they sleep, they breathe, they judge, effectively. Like, that's just how they are. They're hard coded that way to kind of run through that whole process of that's exactly what they're doing. And of course, you'd be met, you're often met with people saying, well, then why don't you do something about it? Well, it's not really my position to. And again, back to the harder you try, the more you're going to ostracize yourself because people will say, well, they're trying too hard. Which is true. All right. We are at the grand total of 3,440 gold. And that is where we're going to end it today. I didn't actually identify all that much stuff. I'm surprised I didn't get more gear. But I identified the stuff that I thought I was going to use, and or that my mercenary was going to use, and that I thought would make money. And we only increased the price, the cost of how much Deckard Cain cost by only about 1,300. So who knows? It might taper off. It's hard telling. But I'm not going to save him. I'm not even going to go pick up the Scroll of Benefice. I'm just going to go right straight to the Black Marsh. But not in this video. I'll save it for the next time. And I'll leave with this. When you're out there in life, you'll meet random people, and you don't know why. But you'll get a feeling about the person. You'll look at them and you'll think to yourself, well, I don't really trust that person, or that person just makes you angry and you've never met them before, and you're just livid at them. You don't know why. Well, maybe because something happened in a previous existence. And your soul knows that soul. There's that potential. But at the same time, try to be one of those people that doesn't judge other people. Give them a fair shake. And I say that with a small amount of trepidation. I can't really say trepidation. I say that with a small amount of doubt. Because even if you don't judge somebody, even if you see somebody and you think to yourself, I'm going to wait for them to show me the content of their character. In some cases, waiting for that moment can often lead to harm. Because you don't know the content of their character, and then when they finally reveal it, it could be potentially harmful to you or other people. That has happened. There's also the potential that these people, by having that preconceived notion or having that preconceived judgment, is a safer bet. So I say try not to judge people, but I say that with a little bit of hesitation and doubt. Because in some cases, having that gut feeling of, I don't trust that, and having that judgment call because you had a gut feeling is potentially the right move. But it's kind of a person-to-person basis, so take that for what it is. But at any rate, I hope everybody enjoyed this video, because I know I did. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.